Hello, today we are going to be talking about finding some books that are in a special place in our library. So these are books that you might have been looking for, and if you were doing it correctly you would have looked on the computer and you would have seen a number and you would have come over here to the number section, and then maybe you went there and you couldn't find anything with that number. And that's because we had a limited number of shelves to use here, so we had to put some books in the back of the library. So I'm going to go ahead and show you where those books are and how they are put away. So back here, behind the computers, is the special area I'm talking about. So first you're going to notice there's a sign here that says Folk and Fairy Tales 398.2. So all of these books on the spine on the call tag have the number 398.2, and what they have in common is they're folk or fairy tales. Here's an example of one. It's The Three Little Pigs by James Marshall. These books are put away by the author's last name. So this book would be put away first of all by 398.2, but then second we're going to go alphabetical by the author's name. So you might find a Three Little Pigs here, a Three Little Pigs here, a Three Little Pigs down here, and what that means is we have different authors who have written their own version of the Three Little Pigs. So you really need to come with both pieces of information if you're looking for one of these books in 398.2. Moving on, because we have quite a few shelves of 398.2s. The second type of book we have over here is our 811s. Our 811s are our poetry. So if you write poetry, you are called a poet. And these books are put away by the poet's last name. So first we have several shelves that all have 811 on the first line of the call tag, and then the second line will have the beginning letters of the poet's last name. So up here you see we have a Shel Silverstein poetry collection, but then down here we have an entire shelf of our Shel Silverstein, that's kind of a tongue twister, books. And our last large type of book we have over here are our 921s, and our 921s are our biographies. So a biography is a book that is written about a real person's life. So these books are shelved differently than every other book in the library. Every other book has something on the top, whether it's a number, an E, an F. These books all have 921. And then the second line is different because it is not the beginning letters of the author's last name. It is the beginning letters of the person who the biography is about last name. So for example, a book that many people were looking for last year was one about the sports figure LeBron James, who was a basketball player. So it's going to be over here in the 921s, and the tag that we'd be looking for would start with J-A-M, because last name James starts with J-A-M. So as I use my alphabetical order skills, I notice at the beginning of this shelf I have H's, and J is very close to H. So as I keep looking, I'm looking for that book that the second line says J-A-M, and sure enough, now I can read the spine, and here I have LeBron James. So there are lots of people over here in the biography section, many that you may never have heard of but have very interesting stories. They may have been part of our American history that you might find interesting. I'm going to go ahead and put this one back so it's right in alphabetical order so somebody who wants to find that LeBron James can find it. Here's an example of some. We have Sally Ride, the first female astronaut. My personal favorite, Knucklehead, which are the stories of the writer John Sheska growing up with his brothers. So if you haven't come back to this area, come back here for biographies, poetry, or folk and fairy tales.